Hello, welcome to the second episode of Opinions You Didn't Ask For. We're going to dive into some real stuff. So my friend Josiah Johnson, he messaged me after he saw my first episode and said, I think that you should use the channel to destigmatize mental health, this mental health crisis that we as millennials are facing. People like to discuss how we spend money on avocado toast, how we're ruining the housing industry, how we're ruining, Costco. Millennials are just screwing up society, and maybe we are. Who knows? But in focusing on our obsession with avocado toast, which I don't really know a whole lot of millennials that are obsessed with avocado toast. I wouldn't say obsessed. We're missing the point of the fact that a lot of millennials kind of just want to die. I don't really know what that's about because we're living in the most advanced, technologically accessible culture yet. We have resources to explore ourselves. We're living in a time of wonderful self-actualization. But if you listen to popular music, we all just want to die. I don't know about you guys, but we're sitting there jamming out in the car to somebody's cry for help. We have celebrities every day dying from substance abuse, suicide, and we're completely ignoring it because we don't like to be uncomfortable. We don't like to discuss things that show our weakness. We don't like to discuss our struggles. I tend to like to name the monster, call it this, and then that way you can look at it and evaluate it and say, your mental health issue is not who you are as a person. It doesn't speak to your abilities, your potential. It's something that your brain is doing to you. That's something I kind of want to talk about. I'm going to kind of try to destigmatize mental illness. I might, in my effort, make myself look crazy, but that's fine. Because, we're all mad here, right? There's no normal people. We're just trying to skim through life in the most adaptive way possible. So right now, I'm going to talk about that stuff. We're going to get uncomfortable. We're going to stir some stuff up. It's this book by Susan Rose Blauner. It's called How I Stayed Alive When My Brain Was Trying to Kill Me. It really does allow you to name the elephant and the monster. It's your brain. It's not you that makes you want to die, that makes you want to lay in bed. It's your neurotransmitters. Sometimes we get the flu and we go to the hospital and get flu shots. Sometimes our brain gets sick and we go to the doctor and get some medication. Something I once heard said, which I liked, was, if you can't produce your own neurotransmitters, store-bought is fine. Got my survival supplies right here. I used to be really ashamed and I felt abnormal about the fact that I do have medication. We're only really trying to figure out the most right diagnosis for things. The biggest thing about psychology is you really can't prove anything. It's really, really hard for people to completely pinpoint what's going on. And so a lot of times we walk around just kind of feeling crazy. No, there is nothing wrong with you. Your brain trying to pull a fast one. You do want to live. It is the most basic human evolutionary thing, is fight for survival. We do want to live. And so if sometimes you have to use some medications to promote your desire to participate in society, get some medication. It's fine. It's totally fine. I was diagnosed last year with borderline personality disorder. And when a lot of people hear this, they kind of freak out. They think, oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're this way or that way, or impulsive. Lots of therapists actually don't prefer to work with borderline patients on the more severe level of it. There's a whole scale of every type of mental situation. And there are therapists that want to work with borderline. And the type of therapy that I'm involved in is called dialectical behavioral therapy. A little handout right here. So dialectical behavioral therapy, it's pretty much like a skills building focused therapy. Skills-based therapy group for individuals with disorders of affect regulation, including borderline personality disorder. And so while it was originally formulated for borderline personality disorder, it helps to effectively combat PTSD, different types of mood and personality disorders, and substance abuse. Dialectical part means there's two parts of you. There's these two sides of me fighting all the time. They want to coexist, but they almost seem like they can't coexist because they're so wildly opposite. And to figure out how this impulsive, defiant part of me can exist with this part of me that wants to be a successful human in society, loving people, with this angry part of me that wants to say, screw the man, I want to sit here on the corner and I hate life. Those are two extremes. Somehow they have to coexist because they're both in me at the same time. Borderline personality disorder is sort of an acquired coping mechanism. At some point they decided that this way of thinking and behaving was the best way to keep themselves intact and safe. I'll go through some of the different symptoms and characteristics probably in my next video, because I do sort of want to go kind of in depth with this. So it's so misunderstood. We say, oh, they're so impulsive, they're so crazy. Crazy is not a diagnosis. Crazy is not something that exists. It's not something that exists. We are fundamentally afflicted by our brain's chemistry. For me, my brain produces low levels of serotonin. What I take is Lexapro, which is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It's a very standard antidepressant. I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm fine. That is the chemical of serotonin. That is the byproduct of serotonin. When my brain releases serotonin and says, this is a good thing, I feel good, I feel productive, happy, competent, and content, my brain likes to pull that right back up really fast. You know, this is all well and good, but I'm going to suck this back up and you can only feel this for a second. So, what the reuptake inhibitor does is it stops that reuptake for a longer period of time. So my brain releases the serotonin and then says, okay, we're going to keep this in here for a little bit longer. I'm also on Lamictal, which is a mood stabilizer. It's technically an anticonvulsant, that's what it was created for, but they found that it really helps regulate your mood. I have a lot of extreme reactions to emotional stress. Helps to stabilize my mood and keep me kind of at this baseline. So I'm still kind of going to go up and down, and that's going to be something that I tackle in therapy. It does help to have the proper chemical setup in my brain to then absorb the therapy. The reason I'm talking about all this stuff is because I want to help normalize and destigmatize the topic of mental illness, especially in my generation of 20-somethings that we like to curate the best Instagram page, the best captions for things. We like to come across as like we have everything together. But the reality is we're pretty much all just screaming inside. So I want you to understand that mental illness is not, it doesn't define a person as who they are. For example, with like a Crohn's or an ulcerative colitis flare-up, somebody might end up in the hospital for a few days because their body has decided to attack itself. Same thing with mental illness. So I've got friends who have decided the best thing for themselves is to put themselves into the mental health wing of a hospital. And how people freak out because it's a mental health thing instead of a physical health thing. I learn about it and I can objectify it and call it what it is. It allows me as a person to recognize that those things are not who I am. Those do not define me. I can then take control. So that's sort of a brief overview of my view on mental health. But I just wanted to introduce myself and say hi. My name is Bergen. I deal with a mental illness, and that's okay. I want to hear your opinions, and I kind of want to hear what you struggle with. Shoot me a message, comment, like, subscribe, because that's something I might want to research and discuss in my next videos. So stay tuned. It's gonna get kind of crazy in here.